following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, and across the moat from Oakland, northern part of the state. And I am blessed to talk to some of the most interesting people on the planet, today being no exception. My guest is a native New Jerseyite, Jersey City, where my heart, there's a piece of my heart in Jersey City. It's the gateway to Bayonne, and we're going to talk about that. Welcome for the first time, Barry Papick. How are you, sir?
Great to be here. Fantastic.
Oh, great. Pardon me?
I said I am fantastic. It's great to be here.
Oh, I know you are. You've got one of the most interesting lives going. You are what I call a triple threat, and I'll tell you why. You've got three distinct talents. You're an actor.
I am.
You're an acting coach.
That's right.
And not only that, you're a writer. So
I am.
So what I'm thinking is that you're not just reciting somebody else's lines all the time. You're making up your own. You wrote a pilot to a TV show. You wrote a play. And
which we're very excited about putting up.
Okay, tell me about that.
I'm really looking forward to the play. It's called Ruby's Arms, and it looks like we're going to be putting it up sometime in the spring. Excuse my cough. And it's a play of 30 monologues connected by dialogue and 10 songs. And we're putting together a wonderful cast. I'm working with a girl named Sandy Duarte, and Sandy's my co-producer, and I'm directing it. And it's really exciting. And it's something I wrote a while ago and have been working on for a long time. So I'm really excited about putting it up.
Oh, now how does that work? You write a play, you produce it, but do you have to find a venue? Do you have to open it up? Say I'm a playwright and I wanted to get into it. What would you tell me? How do you go about
Well, the first thing you have to do is raise money. And, that's the hardest part. Getting a venue is not a problem. Obviously the dates, you have to work around the dates that they're open. But getting the venue, just getting over this cough. I'm sorry. Getting over.
I've got one on this coast, so don't worry. Oh, you're in L.A., so maybe it is indigenous to coughing these days. We've had some really crazy weather in California.
It's been nuts. Last week I was ill. I had a fever, sore throat, and this week I just fighting this cough, which I'll probably have for the next month. Once I have a cough, it's with me forever.
All right. Well, it's faithful. How about that?
It is. God bless.
Okay.
But the play, getting a venue in the play is not the problem. The biggest problem, of course, is raising the money. It costs about $30,000 to $50,000 to do a play, and so we've been raising the money to do that. And it looks like by the spring we'll have the money and putting together a wonderful cast. Jeff LeBeau, who won an Emmy. Just this really beautiful cast of characters. Sandy Duarte, who won an award in Toronto. So I'm really excited about it. And it's a really dark but beautiful play.
Okay. What inspired you to get into acting? Originally,
well,
or were you a writer first?
I always said I was a writer first, and I think it was because I always wanted to act. So I moved to New York after I graduated from college in Washington, D.C., and I started to study acting. And I said it was to help my writing, but I think it was more because I really wanted to act. And I met a gentleman named Lee Strasberg, and I was really, Lee was just the greatest acting teacher in the world, and he took me under his wing, and I, have been acting ever since, and that's over 30 years ago.
Now, Lee Strasberg, didn't he coach Marilyn Monroe, if I'm not mistaken?
He did. He
wow.
did. Lee was the artistic director at the Actors Studio, and within that, he James Dean, Marlon Brando, all members of the studio, Marilyn Monroe, Kathy Baker, Shelley Winters, who I grew to be really close friends with, was also one of Lee's disciples. So
she
Lee
was
had
a delightful person. She it showed through. She used to be on all kinds of talk shows in New York. She was what was known as a celebrity, and
absolutely.
She just lit up a room, and you can't fool the camera. You are what you are. Good, bad, and
what
different.
a lot of people don't know is that Shelley also won 3 Oscars. I mean, she was a terrific actress, and her celebrity status was later in life because she was on Johnny Carson, she was on the Tonight Show, and she was always a character, but she was terrific. And Places in the Sun with Montgomery Clift will always be one of my favorite movies. And Elizabeth Taylor was in it also, and Shelley won an Oscar for it. It's a brilliant, spine-tingling kind of movie. Really, really beautiful. Probably done in the 50s, the late 50s.
And you got to know her.
Yeah, I knew Shelley very well. And
okay.
and I really
anything about her that we don't know, as my audience doesn't know, just the public doesn't know about her that you do and you'd like to pass on?
Well, the thing about Shelley was that, you never knew what she was going to say next. And it was always an adventure being with her because you never knew what would come out of that mouth. And some of the things that came out of that mouth, I can't even repeat on a radio, but she...
although you could on a podcast.
I could on a podcast.
Not that I'm asking you to specifically, but say what you want.
She was terrific. I mean, we walked past a closet in the Actors Studio once, and she said to me, I had sex in that closet with a very famous person, and I won't say, but she was very candid and a terrific actress. We were at a play one day, and she decided that she just wanted to leave. So now this is Shelley Winters. Remember how famous Shelley was. We were sitting in the middle of the theater, and we had to make everybody stand up in order for her to leave. And we left in the middle of the play.
So imagine how that went over with the producer of that play.
Not very well, but, she did what she wanted to do, and she was always, very specific about what she wanted to do. And I was lucky that, I met her, later in her life, and a woman named Elaine Aiken. Elaine was Shelley's best friend, and Elaine was one of my mentors. So I got to meet, I got to study with Shelley. I got to study with Elaine and Lee, of course. I studied with Lee the last 3 years of his life. And then I met a woman named Uta Hagen, and I was really blessed. I studied with Uta for over 2 years, and she was an incredible lady and incredibly famous. And then I met Susan Batson, who was, it probably is the top acting coach in the world now.
Okay, what did Lee Strasberg teach you about coaching that you pass on to your students? Not everything he taught you, but what is the one or two of the main things that he taught you?
I always say that Lee taught me how to act. Susan taught me how to be an actor. And, Lee taught me, the importance of, working with sensory, working with, recalling, elements of my life to put them into my acting, because the only truth we know is our own truth, of course. And then I met a guy named Harold Klerman. And Klerman put it all together. Klerman was terrific. Clerman put it all together. What he did was he said, yeah, everything that Strasberg's teaching is right, but if you don't understand the piece, you can't understand where to put the work. And Clerman was the man who taught me about script interpretation, and he was incredible, just terrific. And everything came came together after I met Clerman, and then I met Susan Batson, and Batson, she wrote this great book called Truth, and it's I think the clearest acting book out there now. And the thing with Susan is she was able to put all of that stuff together and say, okay, this is where we use this and this is where we put that. And, she was the one who really took me from knowing how to act to really being an actor.
Beautiful. You've told us about some of the people that mentored you. Who are some of the people that you've mentored that you've made a difference in their lives, in their careers, and not necessarily that you rose them to stardom or anything, but a difference in how you interpret a difference is?
I've been really blessed. I've worked with some really, really wonderful actors. I worked with Sean Connery, who I just find to be a terrific human being and a wonderful man. I worked with Al Pacino. I acted with Al, and he was just, he taught me so much. And, he also taught me so much. I just saw him last week, actually. He taught me so much about, what it is to act and the love of acting. I work with a girl named Sonia Sohn, who I've been coaching for close to 20 years now. And she was on The Wire and Body of Proof after that, the originals. She's a terrific actress, and we've been working on everything that she does. I coached a guy named RZA, who was the head of the Wu-Tang Clan. And RZA he's a wonderful actor, and also, obviously a wonderful rapper. And the thing that I love about RZA most is that he understands, his importance in this world. He knows that there's a lot of people, who just lean on every word that he says, and he doesn't take that for granted. And he's a really terrific guy from Staten Island, really from the streets and a rough background, and he really made something of himself where he's a terrific actor and a terrific human being. I coached Jamie Foxx, which I love doing. I thought Jamie was incredible and really wonderful. One of the hardest working people I ever met.
Really?
F. Murray Abraham, who one of the most terrific actors I've ever met. Dennis Quaid. Did I say Dennis? Dennis, we did a movie called The Express together, and Dennis was phenomenal. And again, a really hard-working person. I coached a kid named Rob
talking
Brown.
about some of the elite actors of our time.
I've been really lucky. I've been really lucky. I coached a kid named Rob Brown who was on Blind Spot, and Rob is a terrific actor. He was the lead in a movie called Finding Forrester and The Express. Really terrific guy.
How do actors come to you, or do you come to them?
It's mostly word of mouth. I've always been suggested by studios. Universal brought me into The Express. Sony brought me into Finding Forrester. So it's always been, different people have brought me into different movies, but I've never advertised. It's always been word of mouth.
I'm looking at my questions, and then we can talk. I got to get the things I want to ask you. Tell me about your writing process. Everybody's is different.
For me,
do you write when the spirit hits you? Do you make an appointment with yourself? Do you take notes and then journal them later? How is it for you?
I'm not a great writer. Hopefully the stuff that I write is great, but I'm not the kind. I have friends who make appointments and they work from 9 to 5 as writers, and they're very diligent about what they do. Myself, I write when the spirit hits me, and I've been very lucky. In writing Ruby's Arms, one of the best monologues I think in Ruby's Arms. I was sitting at I was driving my car and I was sitting at a street light, and this monologue just came through me, and I was lucky that I just pulled over and wrote it down, and it's I think one of the best pieces in Ruby's Arms. I've always been one. I like to write at night. I'm a night person. I write from midnight till like 5 in the morning, and
right.
And it's always been when I feel inspired, and that's the great thing about Ruby's Arms is that it was something that I just felt inspired. Now Pearl, the TV series that I wrote wrote that because someone said to me, a lot of the stuff that you write is very dark, and I wanted to prove to myself and to them that I could write something lighter. So Pearl is a situation comedy, and I think it's very funny. The first episode is written mockumentary style, so it's pretty much to the camera, and then the rest of the episodes are just a sitcom style. So it's and it centers around and this is the hardest part of selling it, is it centers around an older woman, and it's not a market that's easily sellable.
I understand, but there's so much more you could get out of the character of someone who's lived life that there's no comparison.
Oh, and she's such a great character. She was the star of a very famous rock and roll band. She has the mouth of a truck driver. She's experienced everything in Hollywood, and everybody has experienced her. And so it's just so much fun. She's an incredibly fun character, and it's been great, writing her because she's so exciting and so much fun to write.
Nice. Anybody who writes with humor or thinks they have a sense of humor or is generally funny gets it from somewhere. You get it from your parents? Did you get it from an uncle, aunts? Where did that come from?
I'm not sure. I grew up, I was class clown in high school. My high school was a very urban high school.
Right.
It was about 80% African American, and I think it was a survival technique growing up. Where I grew up, you were either funny or quiet, and and I was funny. My father was a guy who had a lot of personality, a very charismatic guy. And my mother was just an incredibly wonderful, sweet woman. But my comedy, and certainly, when I write comedically, I think it came from a survival mode more than anything else.
Okay. Did your parents encourage you in your career?
Not at all. And I understand why. I went to college. I graduated with two degrees in English and political science, and they expected that I was going to law school, and that was a much easier route. And I decided when I graduated from college to move to New York and become an actor, and they understood that it was a difficult route, and it is. But they were never really supportive of it. But they did see everything that I did. I remember when Private Parts came out, My father was the first one online, so they were big fans of the work that I did, and the more work I did, obviously, the easier it was for them. But no, I would say at the beginning it wasn't what they had planned for me.
Okay, they got to see you become successful.
Yes, and I'm very happy about that. I'm very lucky. Yeah. They saw. I did 40 plays in New York, and my mother was at every one of those plays. My father came to the first one and said he'll never come to another one again. But he saw every movie I did, and they saw every television show I did, and yeah, they were very supportive. And while they were alive, I was doing NYPD Blue, and I was doing Swan's Crossing, which was maybe the worst television show ever on TV. But I did 65 episodes of Swan's Crossing with me and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Mira Sorvino. And,
well, I guess you never saw My Mother the Car. So, that might have been a worse television show. I don't know, but I'm just guessing. If you could only choose one to do for some reason, would it be acting? If you had to choose one to do, now if you could only choose, if you had to choose, would it be acting first, writing first, coaching first?
No. Everything comes from the fact that I'm an actor, and the teaching comes from the fact that I'm an actor. The coaching comes from the fact that I'm an actor, and the writing comes from the fact that I'm an actor. I'm really lucky that, and to me, if I could only do one thing, I would act for the rest of my life, and I will act for the rest of my life. I will die on stage. For me, that's where I feel most comfortable. I always say I don't feel really comfortable in the world, but I do feel really comfortable in front of a camera or on stage.
Wow. You are so succinct and articulate about your feelings inside. You have no doubts. When I ask you these questions, you just you don't hedge. You don't. You're really well grounded.
Well, I'm really lucky. How many people have found what they wanted to do? Their life's work. And listen, we all know it's not an easy route. I've had years that I've made a lot of money, and I've had years where I've made no money, and I've had years where I worked every month of the year, and then I've had years where it's been like 9-10 months without work. So
So I assume you're good with money, and that when you make it, you sock some away. All right, at least I hope.
Sometimes, it usually works that way. Fortunately, I also coach and I also teach, so it's another way to make money.
And if you're not living a lifestyle that exceeds what your income is, and you're living on the come,
I agree.
It can be pleasurable.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I love what I do. Who else gets to jet away and do a movie for 4 or 5 months? I just, I did a movie called Bolden, which is coming out in May, and I was the on-set acting coach. And, I did the movie The Express for 5 months in Chicago, which was fantastic. I did a commercial in Sydney, Australia. I've been really lucky. I'll never forget.
Absolutely. But, luck is I think it was Branch Rickey, the baseball person, who said, luck is the residue of preparation and design. And
I agree.
You just, people say, yeah, that's modest. I want to tell you that. You're a modest person because people don't just get lucky, with rare exceptions. And you certainly don't get lucky for a 30-year career. It's not just because of luck. So
I've been very, and I'll tell you the truth. I tell that to people in my class also. acting, people don't understand that acting is hard work. If you're a doctor, you sleep at the hospital. If you're a lawyer, you put in 150 hours when you're starting out. So to think that you can't do that as an actor, is just selfish. So, the key is to put in the work, work as hard as you can. If I wasn't teaching acting, I would still be in an acting class because it keeps me fresh.
What do you tell your students about dealing with rejection?
Well, I think that rejection is part of what we do. So what you have to do is find the rewards in other places. So that's why I think acting class is so important because, put up a scene and really find the greatness of that scene. Put up a play and find the greatness of that play. And, find where your rewards are going to be. Because in this business, there's a lot of rejection. We have to grow thick skin. So when we do find that rejection, we better have other places where we can fall back on. And I think that the other places to fall back on are, doing our own work and creating our own projects. And that's why I love doing theater. Whenever I was in New York, when I wasn't doing a movie, I was taking the money from the movies or the television shows that I made and putting them into making theater. And I put up Waiting for Lefty, which I loved, The Time of Your Life by Saroyan, which I loved. And, take the money that you make and put up the plays that mean something to you.
Okay. May I ask you who you read when you were a kid?
Oh, absolutely. I think that 3 books changed my life. The 3 books that changed my life, the first one was Jack Kerouac, On the Road, because it taught me that there was more to life than Jersey City. And I'm sure you've been in Jersey City, and it's very, very easy to get stuck in a place like that. And my father was a construction worker, and, I learned that I wanted to get out of Jersey City and see the world. And I was really lucky that I've been able to do that. The second one was The Razor's Edge by Somerset Maugham. And what that book taught me was that, there's humanity in this world. And it's a book that really touches my soul because it's about, caring about your fellow human being. Obviously something we don't see a whole lot of today. And,
right.
I'll always believe that, I am my brother's keeper. And, so, anytime I can, I have to reach out and help other people in this world. And I think that, the first thing that taught me that was Razor's Edge and Somerset Maugham. It's an incredible book made into 3 or 4 incredible movies. And the last book was The Ideas and Opinions of Albert Einstein. And the reason that book touched me so much was that Einstein saw the world, from a different level. He saw it from a different degree. And he was so incredibly intelligent, much more intelligent than, I'll ever be. And he was so intelligent that, you didn't even have to read the math or the physics. All you had to really read was the human rights and the way he saw humanity. And that's why Ideas and Opinions is so incredible, because it's all, Einstein's words. It's his speeches, his letters, his reports. So everything that you read, you're reading from Einstein's point of view. And so each one of those books, as I went along my life, changed the direction of my life. And I think that was, that was the important thing. I think, the first book I think that really touched me, excuse my cough, was To Kill a Mockingbird. And again, because it said, the world is bigger out there. and it's about people, and it's about caring about people. And, so when I started to read, it opened up a whole new world for me, a world outside of New Jersey, and, a world that I can explore and attempt to conquer, never quite, but certainly attempt to.
Okay. Barry, who made you laugh when you were a kid?
Oh, that's a great question. I was really lucky, because I lived in Jersey City, and I was right across from New York City. So I used to sneak into New York all the time. And I would go into New York and go to the improv, the different improv clubs. And my favorite was a place called Chicago City Limits, which was incredible. And every Friday, Chicago City Limits would bring on a different famous actor, to do their improvisation with them. So one week it was Richard Klein, which was amazing, and one week it was fantastic, and one week it was Robert Lewis, which was amazing. And then one week I'm sitting there with my cousin, actually, in the audience, and who comes on stage but Robin Williams. And Robin Williams was so incredible and so quick, and it was just amazing to watch him work, because his mind just worked faster than everybody else's.
Barry, I can attest to that. I did some comedy in the 80s and 90s, and I had the rare privilege of opening for Robin Williams.
Wow.
And, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was.
That had to be amazingly cool. By the way, San Francisco, one of my favorite cities in the whole wide world. I'm a huge music fan, and I've been up to San Francisco just to hear music. I went to the Levi Stadium, of course, right outside of San Francisco, to see the Dead's last show, the Grateful Dead's last show. And then I've also been at the Great American Music Hall and the Fillmore West. And, just seeing, I love seeing music in San Francisco. And I stood on the corner of Haight-Ashbury and realized that I was probably at home for the first time in my life.
Wow. You've got a Northern California spirit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the music has always taken me in that direction. As a matter of fact, it's funny because Sunday night I went to see Yorma in Kokonin, and I play in a small place here called McCabe's. And, of course, Yorma was the lead guitarist for Jefferson Airplane and for Hot Tuna. And he's
Hot Tuna was the greatest blues and the heaviest blues I've ever heard.
Yep.
Right?
Hot Tuna. By the way, Hot Tuna as an acoustic band, and they would tour electric and then they would tour acoustic. And as an acoustic band, there was nobody even close to them. And people don't even know it, but Yorma is probably the best acoustic guitarist in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you play an instrument yourself? And if
I
not,
don't.
What would you play if you could play?
I would play piano. I would love to play piano one day. And, I did play guitar when I was a kid, but I learned how to play Go Tell Aunt Rhody Her Old Great Goose Is Dead. And
yes. I learned to play that on the recorder in the 60s, that little flute-like thing that would.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the 6th grade, I remember, go down the old gray, the duck is dead, or whatever it was. Good memories. What did you miss growing up in Jersey that you could have gotten if you grew up in L.A.? And what are you glad that you got from New Jersey education?
Great question.
That you wouldn't have gotten from L.A.
I'll tell you. I think the thing that I missed most growing up in New Jersey that I didn't get in L.A. Was just the music scene. Jackson Browne and Linda Ronstadt and the Eagles and the Troubadour. I had a lot of friends who grew up in in L.A., and it was, it was just a great place to grow up, and a really great place, to follow. I mean, Warren Zevon was my favorite, always has been, and he was playing in Los Angeles. But the thing I got in New Jersey that you can't get anywhere else is the understanding of people and the connection with people. I think New Jersey has the, and obviously I'm biased, but I think New Jersey has the greatest people, people who really care about other people. And, I've always found, I grew up half the year or 3/4 of the year in Jersey City and the other, quarter of the year down on the Jersey Shore on the beach. And, I always found that the people in New Jersey were the best people in the world.
So you were a Bruce Springsteen fan.
I grew up, I worked at Monmouth Racetrack while I was in college. So I worked for 5 summers at Monmouth Racetrack. And every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, we'd see Southside Johnny, and Bruce would come on at least once a week. And and then if anybody was playing across the street, at the Asbury Park Casino, they would come over and jam with Springsteen afterwards. So I saw Loggins and Messina and Jimmy Cliff and all these great people, play with Springsteen growing up. And we would work all day at the racetrack and sleep all night on the beach and just every night see music.
Nice. Barry, you've had a blessed life, haven't you?
I hopefully there's a lot more, but yes.
Yeah, but up till now,
I've been really lucky. Growing up on the Jersey Shore, the summers on the Jersey Shore were just the best. And, working at the racetrack was fantastic. I worked there. It was me and my college roommate, my sister, my brother-in-law, my cousin. And we had a great time working at the racetrack. And it was just the perfect summer job. Nice.
You're a terrific guest. Would you promise me to come back sometime?
I would love to. I had a great time. This was fantastic, Ralph.
That is incredibly high praise. All I can say is tell somebody.
Absolutely.
Let them know. All right. I'm going to send you a link to this as soon as I publish it. And I just want to thank you. You opened up to me, and you kept the streak going of my talking to interesting people, the most interesting people on the planet. You happen to be one of them. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Beautiful. I want to thank everybody for listening, and I want you to do me a real favor. If you enjoy this offering or any of the offerings on the network, would you please take a minute a day to box up some lightly used or new children's books and take them to the Head Start program? Wherever you are, kids need to read, they need to develop a passion, they need to become school ready, and they need to get their noses out of the devices and the computers and be motivated. So kids at the Head Start need, by just the nature of the beast, kids at the Head Start program need the books more than your average bear. So put some books together, take them down there, and you'll feel good, and I'll have a way of feeling good about it. So please be well, everybody. Thank you, and I'll be back at you real soon. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Ralph.
Adios. The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.